Ahoy there folks, I'm Captain Benzie and welcome back to another video for EVE Online. Now today's video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to essentially be a stream of consciousness podcast flow of thoughts style video. So if you're watching the Prowler on screen now and going, oh, what kind of crazy footage are we going to have on stream? The answer is absolutely none. This is just me talking about my thoughts in response to a topic I've seen cropping up a lot recently on the EVE subreddit, on Discord, mine and other Discords that I'm on regarding EVE Online, even on Twitter / X, if that's really what you still want to call it. Anyway, this is the subject that high-sec is too dangerous and should be made safer. And so what I want to do is kind of address this, add my own thoughts and opinions. I can get a little bit ranty on this topic, but I'm going to try and keep this as unbiased, as sort of straightforward and fair as possible, although it is going to come with a few fairly harsh truths, so please bear that in mind. I'm not attacking anyone directly here. If you kind of feel attacked by anything I'm saying, I don't intend that to you as a person. I'm merely attacking the concepts and challenging your perception of how to actually look at this issue, because there is a very serious and straightforward answer to it, and the answer is no, high-sec's fine. Genuinely, high-sec is fine, give or take a few minor tweaks that I'd make, which I might talk about in this video or in other ones. Anyway, before this becomes a really lengthy intro rant about what I'm going to talk about, let's just do the usual sort of get it out of the way kind of stuff. If you do enjoy this video, if you have any thoughts and opinions, if you want to agree with me, if you disagree with me, it just really helps the channel out. If you want to drop a comment down below, hit like on the video as well. Both of that really helps the YouTube algorithm. If you do want to go the extra mile to support me financially, I am trying to upgrade some of my equipment at the moment to get started with things like streaming. I do want to get like a Space Mouse set up so that I can do much better camera work in my videos. If you fancy helping out to pledge, donate and support on that kind of thing, if you want to invest in me, I guess is a way of saying it, then you can head across to my Patreon page or my PayPal tip jar, both linked in the description down below. If you're fairly new to EVE Online, I do have a referral link in the description as well. Click that, log in, 1 million free skill points goes to you. I get a small kickback as well. And the Cat Skull Discord is down there as well. Great little community Discord to come and chat with people about all things EVE Online. Right, anyway, all that said and done, let's talk about the concept that high-sec should be safer. Now, a lot of the time, this comes from a genuine place where people want high-sec to be a little bit safer, and they usually add the addendum that, well, the rewards would be lowered so that people can't just can't earn unlimited wealth in complete safety. The trouble is that's a complete cognitively dissonant sentence. Essentially, if you make somewhere completely safe, then people can create unlimited wealth and safety. It doesn't matter how low the rewards are. We've seen this in EVE Echoes, where in certain cases, high-sec islands were made very, very low value, and people still just ground out the content. Essentially, you make somewhere completely safe, and there will be people who go there and just live there. They are completely risk-averse. They just grind the low-quality stuff in order to get better rewards. This is not dissimilar from playing games like, say, Dark Souls or some of these other RPGs where you might be struggling with some of the current content, so you go back to an earlier level and you just run around and kill all the really weak enemies to get experience or grind healing items and things like that. Rather than push the challenging content, you go back and you do some of the really easy stuff that then allows the more challenging content to become easier. It's a similar concept to that, except you're not making the challenging content easier. You're just going back and going, well, this is easier and I get rewards for it. It doesn't matter that the rewards are significantly lower. They're the rewards that I'm looking for. Therefore, I'm just going to stay in this safe place and run this. And a lot of game design, God, I know a lot of designers, and I've talked about this a lot of game design is trying to save you from yourself, trying to save the players from themselves, because if you create a completely safe environment like that, you end up in a position where people will just use that system over and over again. It's why if you're playing World of Warcraft, there is a level limit. Once you have exceeded a level limit in an area, you don't get experience for killing those enemies anymore. You don't get rewards for killing those enemies anymore. They are too low level for you. It's too safe, too easy. They do that to stop you just being able to grind infinitely. That concept exists in EVE as well. So if you it's a mission. It's not a thing in EVE because they've purposely made sure that it's not a possibility. Now, If you had this complete safety, even with the low rewards, it just makes it for a grindathon, as I've said, and this is really bad for the game for numerous different reasons. First of all, it now means that whoever it is who's been playing the longest, has the most SP, that kind of thing, they get the most ISK. If you are looking at winning EVE in inverted commas, then this makes it very much based around who has been playing longer. And that could be longer in terms of real time, like someone who's got an account that's 10 years old, has a lot more SP, they can do these kind of things. Plus they'll be building up their ISK. If you added it completely safely, someone who's been doing it from the start is going to be getting all of their risk up, whereas if you then have a look at someone who's recently joined, they can't compete with that just because the other people have been playing longer. Also playing longer in the sense that, oh, this person logs in for 20 hours a day and grinds compared to someone who only has 1 hour every 2 days. They're not going to be able to keep up, right? And when I say not be able to keep up, it's because this causes hyperinflation on a market. We've seen this in EVE Echoes, that people who are able to grind completely safely, what they do is amass a hoard of ISK. That ISK means they have the purchasing power on the market, so they can go to the market and they will pay whatever. You put up a ship for 10 billion, they've got the ISK to buy that. And once they've got that ship, that perfect ship for themselves, they're going to buy out all of the modules and that they need. At which point, everything that they loot, every reward that they earn that is not purely ISK, they're just going to sell on the market, and they'll sell it without caring about its actual value, because screw it, it's just about making the money. They don't need to make it in big chunks, they don't need to make it even efficiently, they can just make it because they never lose anything. There's no degradation to their wallet. They are only ever gaining, which means they just keep climbing. It doesn't matter. When you're in a wormhole, you look at what ship you fly, for example, as possibly being lost. That means you need to survive so many sites to get its cost back, and then you still risk losing it and having to replace it at a future date. This means that the cost of your ship is kind of, it's a risk in ratting, and it is a fee that you'll have to pay every time you're destroyed. If you're never getting destroyed, then the cost of your ship no longer matters, and you don't need to worry about replacements. Everything is pure profit. You have no outgoings anymore other than ammunition, and theoretically you could just train industrial skills because you've got nothing better to do now and just grind ammunition out yourself, or it's so cheap on the market that who cares. But it wouldn't remain cheap. That's the point. You can now start to increase market prices because there are people who have a lot more ISK, they're chasing an ISK high score. They can just buy these things on the market no matter what you price them as. We've seen this in EVE Echoes, and it means that every time something new gets added to the game, it comes in ridiculously expensive, and it usually stays there because the big players can just afford whatever. They are sitting on such big hordes of ISK. They can buy whatever they want to whenever they need to, and it kills the market. It kills the market for everyone except the top 1%. And that top 1% shrinks and shrinks and shrinks as they price each other out, basically. It just ends up becoming this ISK high score led by whoever has the least social life to actually play, to whoever can just log into the game and play for the longest amount of time, basically. Now, the largest complainers about HiSec being too safe tend to be pure PvE or industrial players. Now, I do understand the frustration of being a PvE player and getting ganked. Again, I live in wormholes. That is a thing that happens all the time. But I believe that added risk is what makes EVE fun. I've put a video about this, of why you should embrace destruction. And I genuinely believe that ratting with no threat is boring as all hell. Like, people talk about AFKing Ishtars in nullsec. What's fun about that? If you are AFKing, you're admitting you don't want to play the game. You're not enjoying the game. You're actively going off and doing something else and leaving the game to play itself. Therefore, you're not having fun in the game, right? Like, I can't imagine any other game really where that kind of stuff becomes possible, that you're actively having fun in. If you want to play something like, say, Apex Legends or Call of Duty, if you want to play something like a story-driven campaign game like, say, Final Fantasy, or I don't know, I think of any big gaming experience, and imagine spending, going down to your local shop or onto the online store, paying £60 to £80 for a brand new game, and then just hitting play, sitting back in your chair and going and watching YouTube for an hour. You're not playing the game, you're not enjoying it, so why are you spending money on it, right? Like, if you're not enjoying it, I don't know, I think there's a whole different topic that we can go on to on that there, but essentially, for me, I think that PvP is what makes the game fun, even if I'm not a big active PvPer. I like the being hunted side of EVE. I think that makes the game much more intense, and that rush of narrowly escaping someone who's jumped me and tried to kill me is what makes this absolutely intense. Like, the PvP rush in EVE is unlike anything else. I've played plenty of PvP games in my time, and using Apex Legends again as an example, when I get caught in a firefight in that game and die, I come out at the end of it and I'm frustrated more than anything. Or if I win a fight, it's just like, oh cool, I won, and we're going to move on to the next one. In EVE, the second someone warps in on you, the pulse is going, because I have real loss on the table here. If they kill me, that ship is gone. The loot I'm carrying is gone. I'm not getting it back. It's as simple as that. It's permanent destruction, which gets the blood pumping. Whereas in Apex, if I do die, it's frustrating because I've spent, 10, 15 minutes running around an arena looting up, and now I've just got to restart the process. But that's it. You don't really lose anything other than your time. You're going into the next match just as equipped as you were this match. Whereas in EVE, I've got to replace something that I have actually lost. And to me, that blood pumping, that adrenaline rush, it's unlike anything else. You don't find that in any other game out there. That's what makes EVE special to me. Except low-sec gate camps, low-sec smart bomb gate camps. Fuck low-sec smart bomb gate camps. Seriously, they just should not exist. Anyway, I did a video on that recently. So for PvE, yeah, I kind of get the frustration. It does suck to lose a ship and lose your loot and all that, but the flip side is that surviving it, I think, can be one of the most exhilarating experiences in gaming. But what about Industrialists? Because that's where the main focus of this seems to come from. Most people I see complaining that high-sec should be safer tend to be Industrialists, and I'm of the very firm opinion, and this is where things are going to get controversial, so I am going to preface this now by saying if you feel attacked, I am attacking the idea and the concept, not you as a person. But there are going to be some rough truths going forward. Please bear that in mind. So Industrialists should be crying out for more destruction, not less. And the easiest way to figure out who's a good Industrialist and who's a bad Industrialist, in my head, is watch how they respond to destruction. If they cry about destruction and they want the game to be safer, they are a bad Industrialist. They are not a good Industrialist. The good Industrialists are the ones who understand that the destruction is absolutely vital to their gameplay. We'll get to that. So first of all, destruction creates demand, right? It's as simple as that. Ships being blown up means you're going to sell more ships as an Industrialist. And I'm not talking about just someone who is building and selling ships. As a hauler, the fact that people have lost ships means they need to buy new ships. That means you need to move stuff to the market. You need to actively haul stuff around. If you're a miner, then people losing their ships means that someone wants to build ships, means that people are going to haul to the market, means that someone needs to build a ship, and those people building ships need your materials. The destruction of ships creates opportunity. It increases demand for the product, which rolls back along the entire chain, both your primary industry that are harvesting the resources, your secondary industries like your hauling and your reprocessing, that kind of thing, even your tertiary industries like the actually selling it on the front line, marketeering, all of it relies on destruction. If there's no destruction, then there's no need to buy anything. If there's no need to buy anything, then there's no point trying to sell things, right? Does that make sense? If people don't lose ships, then nobody is buying. You can't sell. And this does include Industrialists. People losing haulers or exhumers means you can sell them replacements. Someone gets their hauler ganked. Someone gets their venture, their prospect, their procurer, coveter, whatever, blown up. It means that you as an Industrialist get to sell them the replacement. If there's no replacements, there's nothing to sell, there's nothing to haul, nothing to build, no need to even mine, right? So instead of complaining, learn to survive. If space is dangerous and you can survive, then you're going to massively benefit. How does that work? Well, basically, crap haulers get blown up and lose their loot in gate camps. That means that you as a good hauler are the only one actually getting your goods to market, which means you're the only one making ISK. If there are 1,000 haulers online and they're all running the contracts, there's less for you to do, less opportunity for profit. If half of those haulers are getting blown up constantly and you're not, then you're the one actually getting through and making the ISK. This goes for mining as well. The crap miners get blown up and lose their ores. Remember, ores don't exist in the game as a thing. When you go out and mine, you are creating ores. You are turning a visual icon in the game into an actual thing that can then be sold on the market. Now, if you and every other miner could do that completely safely, it means 100% of the minerals available make it to market. That really means that 100% stuff's coming through, you are going to be supplying whatever demand is there. Whereas if half of the miners get blown up, then only half of the ores that have been harvested actually make it to market, which means the supply is halved. Now, if you know anything about business, it's that essentially price is based on supply and demand. If supply goes up, prices go down. If demand goes up, prices go up. So you can play with either side of the supply-demand chain to modify prices. And if you can increase demand whilst also increasing supply, then you're in for the big money. Now, this, as I said, this idea that if a miner gets blown up, reducing the supply, means that essentially your ores become more valuable. If 90% of miners are getting blown up because they're all idiots, then the 10% who make it through are going to be able to sell their ores for a much higher amount. Now, you can probably already see where I'm going with this whole thing of the 90% and the 10%, but we'll get there in a moment. Because if you can get the goods to market where others can't, you're now delivering rarer commodities. If you can survive where others are dying, you are going to be able to make a profit. As I said, the easiest way to tell the difference between a good industrialist and a bad industrialist is to see where they lie on the concept of destruction. A good industrialist understands that destruction both increases demand and reduces supply, making industry much more profitable. Successful industrialists know that destruction is the grease on their gears. They learn to survive where the weaker players die. The weaker players dying increases the profitability of the successful ones. This is the core concept of EVE. Bad players die, good players survive. So if you are complaining that, oh my god, I keep dying, they need to make it safer, hard truth, you're probably not a good player. Because there's a lot you can be doing to survive. If you're a low-sec miner, there are ways to survive. People are mining low-sec all the time and getting in and getting out with their materials fine. Again, I live in wormholes. I gas huff in wormholes. Probably the single most dangerous area of space. Oh, but what about nullsec? Yeah, nullsec is so dangerous. Sitting behind 20 layers of friendly systems where if anyone comes in, they're going to drop a fleet of, 20 marauders, a load of capitals and things like that on a fleet of 12 cruisers, right? Thanks, frat. Nullsec is probably the safest area of space because it's almost impossible to get ganked unless you're an absolute idiot who's literally set your Ishtar to AFK while you go and watch porn or whatever, which is what I assume 90% of these nullsec players are actually doing by the way that they pilot when you actually manage to jump in on one of them, and how angry that they get when, they lose their ship, inevitably. It's like you were AFKing in a DED complex. What were you expecting? A fleet of 12 guys jumped in on you, we blew you up, and now all of your mates are going to come along with a fleet of, 70 ships, of which, 20 are marauders or capitals or whatever, horde dreads, that kind of thing. I only assume they have to be watching porn because that's the level of frustration that those players exhibit when they're destroyed. Bad players complain that they're getting destroyed. Good players look at the fact that they're getting destroyed and go, right, how can I survive next time? Instead of bitching and complaining that, oh, things need to be safer. No, you need to learn to play the game better. Hard truth, I don't mean it to be aggressive like that, but that is how EVE works. When you say, I think the game should be safer, I'm sick and tired of getting destroyed, what you are saying is, I haven't figured out how to survive, and I'm not convinced that I actually have the skills in order to do so. Therefore, the game needs to be safer to compensate for my lack of skills. Sorry, hard truth. That is literally what you are saying. The other argument, just to address it briefly, is that, oh, but if the game were safer, would get more new players join in. Yeah, but EVE doesn't want those players. We don't want the people who complain about the game not being safe enough for them. We don't want casual players. CCP's business model is based on the concept of finding... It's like Games Workshop. I'll explain that in a second. I used to work for Games Workshop, selling Warhammer. Now, they don't want to appeal to a mass market. It's why they don't put adverts on TV, why they're not doing big films for cinema and stuff like this. Mass market appeal is not what they're looking for. as a Games Workshop staff member, you are essentially, the reason they talk about it as recruiting rather than just being a salesman assistant or whatever, is that it's your job to go out there and find the people who want this product. There's a group of people who look in a Games Workshop window and start rubbing their knees and salivating when they see pretty models to paint and play games with. Not everyone's going to. Trying to appeal to a mass market doesn't work. Not always. Not always. Obviously, games like, say, God of War or Spider-Man, these are meant to appeal to as many people as they can. Eve isn't. Eve is designed to appeal to a very niche group of people and to capitalize on that. They know that 90% of the Eve players, 90% of the people who get addicted to Eve are going to support the game financially. They know that this is a game that is so perfect for what this small group want that that small group will support it. It's the same with me and my content. I don't have hundreds of thousands of subscribers or hundreds of thousands of viewers on a video. I've got a small dedicated core of people who watch my content, enjoy it, and choose to support me. And that pays my bills. Same with CCP. They know that they are looking for a small group of people who will support them as long as they are supported back. And that's what they're doing. If you start to dilute the Eve experience by suddenly including completely safe activities, suddenly those existing players, the people who have come for this specific harsh environment where choices matter, consequences matter, that kind of thing, the butterfly effect video we've all seen, if you start to dilute the game, you risk losing those players, and those players are your biggest spenders, whereas the new people coming in are going to be casuals. If you make the game very casual friendly, you run the risk of alienating the people who are supporting your product for the intent of getting a load of people in who aren't going to support your product. You're kind of alienating the players to bring in more free-to-players, and that's not CCP's business strategy. They've kept this game running for 20 years, right? They've kept this game running for 20 years, basically on the concept that this game is designed for a specific hardcore type of player, and those players will support the game. It's not about opening the doors to getting everyone to play Eve. Eve will never be a game for everyone. And that's a good thing. So the bottom line is, Eve is meant to be hard. Eve is meant to be consequential. It's supposed to have consequences to your decisions. It's supposed to be all about your decisions and choices having an impact. And if your decision is to complain that the game needs to be safer, the impact that has is that people kind of laugh at you. Better thing to do is to look at the fact that you are being blown up and figure out what you can do to survive that in future. What can you do to survive an aggressor? And that'll actually make you a better player. That'll make you a better industrialist, because you'll be the one getting your products to market. You'll be the one actually getting the resources safely out of the belts. And the fact that loads of other people are getting blown up at the same time just increases your profits, baby. So you should be asking for more destruction, because if you can survive and everyone else dies, you stand to make a lot of ISK. Anyway, folks, that's my rant for today. Hopefully there's some points there that you can agree with, things you might disagree with. I'd love to hear from you in the comment section down below. Chatting with you guys, something I really enjoy doing. I don't want this to be an echo chamber. I like differing viewpoints. As long as they're nicely laid out. I don't like people getting angry, aggressive, upset, swearing at me, that kind of thing. If that's who you are, then, sure, I hope you feel better and find joy in your life. But yeah, treat people like people, Treat people like people in the comment section. Always a good thing. Like, I've had a few people recently go, "Oh, what a soy boy." And it's like, awesome. Thanks for outing yourself as someone I want to block. Because the funny thing is, I'm not sitting there saying, "Oh, I can't handle a bit of, negative feedback." I'm saying I don't want to. What you're admitting when you come out with that whole soy boy thing is that you have no idea how to actually have a proper conversation without getting aggressive. It's kind of childish. So, good luck to you. Anyway. Thank you for watching this one right the way through to the end, folks. Again, if you do want to help support the channel financially, I am looking into streaming. I'm looking into investing in a load of new stuff to help improve the quality of my content. If you want to help with that, hit up my Patreon, hit up my PayPal tip jar. Would love to have some support on that. It'd be, really, really awesome. Thank you to everyone who can. Gonna get your name in the credits in just a moment, so thanks for watching. Happy sailing, and see you in New Eden.